The emergency klaxons screaming through Galactic Council Station Omega-7 meant one of three things: imminent core breach, hostile invasion, or something had escaped from containment level absolute. Ambassador Zilax's communicator exploded with overlapping transmissions before he could even ask which nightmare they were facing. "Sir, we have a catastrophic protocol violation in the Omega Wing. Human female, repeat, human, currently inside the antimatter containment barrier. Atmospheric readings show she's been breathing Class 5 corrosives for at least 20 minutes. She's eating, Ambassador. She's just sitting there eating." Zilax felt his three hearts stutter in sequence. "Clarify immediately. A human is where?" The security chief's voice cracked with barely contained terror. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. "Maximum security wing, sir. Contamination Zone 17, the one that killed the Vraxian delegation in 47 seconds. She walked straight through the molecular barrier like it was decorative lighting." That was impossible, molecularly impossible. The containment fields in Zone 17 were designed to hold antimatter stable. They could stop a battle cruiser. They generated enough exotic radiation to sterilize a small moon. 3 different species had attempted unauthorized entry over the station's 2-century operational history. All 3 were discovered as microscopic carbon residue. "Get me visual confirmation," Zilax demanded, already running toward the command center. "And somebody tell me how a human civilian bypassed security protocols that have never failed." "She didn't bypass anything, sir." The security chief sounded like he was barely holding on to sanity. "She just walked through. Our sensors show the barriers were fully functional. She passed through them anyway. The footage doesn't make sense. Physics doesn't work like this." The command center doors dilated open, revealing organized chaos. Screens flickered with conflicting data streams while 24 council officials shouted into communicators. The central holographic display showed a live feed from Containment Zone 17, and Zilax's breathing apparatus seized. A human female sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a shimmering aurora of deadly radiation that should have converted her body into ionized particles. She was unwrapping what appeared to be a sandwich. Her personnel file scrolled beside the image. "Emma Martinez, botanical specialist, stationed at Omega-7 for 6 months, exemplary performance record, 0 security violations until approximately 23 minutes ago, when she had somehow become the single greatest threat to galactic safety protocols in recorded history." "Somebody contact her," Zilax barked. "Get her out of there before—" "We tried, sir." The security chief's hands trembled on his console. "She's not responding to emergency channels. Our communication systems are experiencing quantum interference from the contamination field. We can see her, but we can't reach her." "Then send in extraction teams." "Sir," the chief's voice dropped to a horrified whisper, "no species in the database can survive those conditions. The last team that entered Zone 17 was Vraxian. Their exoskeletons can withstand plasma storms. They lasted 47 seconds before complete cellular dissolution. This human has been in there for 23 minutes, and she's eating lunch." Zilax stared at the screen. Emma Martinez took a bite of her sandwich, chewed thoughtfully, then frowned at something off-camera. The atmospheric readings displayed beside her image showed toxin levels that should have been instantly fatal to anything biological. The radiation count alone exceeded safe limits by 4,000%. The containment field's exotic matter leakage was producing particles that technically shouldn't exist in normal space-time. Emma Martinez reached into her bag and pulled out what appeared to be a beverage container. "Get me her medical file," Zilax said quietly, "and someone explain to me how Earth's classification review could have been this catastrophically wrong." "Her scans are—" the medical officer's voice shook. "Sir, she's adapted. Real-time biological adaptation. Her cellular structure is compensating for the toxins. We're detecting antibody production for compounds that were considered universally lethal. This isn't just survival. Her body is treating Zone 17 like a mild irritant. The implications crashed through Zilax's consciousness like a cascading systems failure. If humans could survive conditions designed to contain antimatter, every prison in galactic space was obsolete. Every quarantine protocol was meaningless. Every security barrier was decorative. The fundamental architecture of galactic civilization assumed certain universal limitations on biological durability. Emma Martinez was casually proving those assumptions were catastrophically false. "Sir, incoming priority transmission from High Council," an aide announced. "They're demanding immediate explanation for the emergency broadcast. 7 council members are en route via emergency shuttles. ETA 14 minutes. Zilax watched Emma finish her sandwich and check what appeared to be a personal datapad. She looked annoyed. "Can we at least determine what she's doing?" he asked desperately. The security chief adjusted sensors, enhanced audio. Emma's voice came through crackling with quantum static. "Seriously? They closed the cafeteria for some drill and didn't even send a memo? I've got 10 minutes before my ferns need watering and they expect me to just skip lunch?" She was complaining about cafeteria hours. She was sitting in an environment that had killed 3 species, in a zone that required exotic matter to contain antimatter, breathing atmosphere that was 40% corrosive compounds, and she was annoyed about missing lunch. "Get me every file on Earth's environmental conditions," Zilax said, his voice hollow. "And someone wake up the xenobiology specialists, all of them. We're going to need to completely rewrite our understanding of what Deathworld actually means." Zilax made the decision that would haunt his career. He was going in personally. "Ambassador, that's suicide." "She's a civilian botanist, not a hostile entity," Zilax said, though his confidence evaporated as he suited up in the most advanced hazard gear the station possessed. "I'll maintain minimum safe distance and attempt verbal contact." The airlock to Zone 17's outer perimeter hissed open. Every sensor on Zilax's suit immediately screamed warnings. He activated the external speakers, his voice projecting across the contaminated space. "Ms. Martinez, this is Ambassador Zilax of the Galactic Council. You are in extreme danger. Please move toward the sound of my voice." Slowly and carefully. Emma looked up from her datapad, squinting in his direction. "Oh, hey, yeah, I was wondering when someone would show up. Do you know why the cafeteria is closed? I checked the station schedule and there's nothing about maintenance today." Zilax's threat assessment subroutines crashed trying to process her tone. She sounded mildly inconvenienced, not terrified for her life. "Ms. Martinez, you are currently in Containment Zone 17. The atmospheric composition alone should have killed you within seconds. We need to evacuate you immediately." "Huh." Emma glanced around as if noticing her surroundings for the first time. "Is that why I'm feeling kinda tired? I thought maybe I needed more coffee." She paused. "Wait, this is the zone with all the pretty lights? I walked through here because it was a shortcut to the observation deck. Nobody told me it was off limits." "The barriers..." Zilax couldn't finish the sentence. His suit sensors were analyzing the atmosphere Emma was breathing. The readout made his 3 hearts stop in different rhythms. "You're breathing an atmospheric mixture that's 40% corrosive compounds, Class 5 toxins, universal fatality rating. You should be..." "Oh, is that the sulfur smell?" Emma wrinkled her nose. "Yeah, it's pretty strong. Reminds me of that camping trip to Yellowstone. My ex-boyfriend complained the whole time, but I thought it was kinda nice. Volcanic vents have character, you know." Behind Zilax, his communicator erupted with new voices. "Ambassador, this is Senior Medical Officer Kaldra. I'm accessing your suit's external scanners. I need to analyze the human directly." "Kaldra, thank the stars. Please tell me you can explain." "I can't." Kaldra's voice held the flat shock of a scientist watching their entire paradigm crumble. I'm watching her cellular structure adapt in real time. She's producing antibodies for compounds that don't have antidotes. Her respiratory system is compensating for atmospheric toxicity by just processing it, like it's a minor allergen. This violates 17 fundamental principles of xenobiology. Emma stood up, brushing crumbs off her work uniform. The movement triggered 5 separate proximity alarms. She walked 3 steps toward Zillax and passed through another containment barrier that flickered blue, registered her presence, and simply failed to stop her. "Impossible," Zillax whispered. "Sir, she just breached secondary containment," the security chief reported, voice climbing toward hysteria. "Upgrading protocols to maximum, engaging tertiary barriers." Emma paused mid-step as a new wall of energy materialized in front of her, a barrier designed to stop exotic matter, reinforced with technology from 6 different species' most advanced defensive systems. She reached out curiously and her hand passed straight through. "Huh, that tickles." The barrier collapsed entirely. "All barriers failing," the security chief shouted. "Evacuating non-essential personnel. This is not a drill." "Wait, everyone's evacuating?" Emma called out, sounding genuinely concerned. "Is something actually wrong? Should I be worried?" "You're breathing poison," Zillax managed to say. "Oh." Emma considered this. "I mean, I feel fine, little tired, little hungry. Actually, speaking of hungry, do you guys have any real food on this station? No offense, but the rations are kinda bland. I've been craving something with actual spices for weeks." Kaeldra's voice cut through. "Ambassador, I'm running full spectral analysis, 47 different scanning protocols. Every single one is returning impossible results. Her biology shouldn't work. She's surviving through mechanisms that our science says cannot exist." High Council members were arriving now, their emergency shuttles docking in rapid succession. Zillax could hear them on the command channel, demanding explanations he couldn't provide. Emma, oblivious to the civilization-wide crisis she was causing, walked over to a malfunctioning environmental regulator inside the containment zone and frowned at it. "This thing's been humming weird for like 10 minutes. It's super annoying." "Don't touch that!" 3 voices screamed simultaneously. Emma had already opened the access panel. "Oh, I see the problem. Magnetic couplings misaligned. Probably from that weird gravity fluctuation last week. Give me a sec." She reached into the exotic matter-powered device with her bare hands, adjusted something. The humming stopped. The device began operating at 97% efficiency, an improvement over its normal parameters. Kaeldra's voice was barely a whisper. She just performed maintenance on a containment regulator. With her hands, while standing in an environment that's actively trying to kill her, and she improved it. Zillax watched Emma wipe her hands on her uniform, looking satisfied. The High Council was demanding answers. He had absolutely none to give. Zillax abandoned protocol and approached Emma directly, his hazard suit screaming warnings with every step. He had to make her understand before the High Council arrived and declared humanity an existential threat to galactic civilization. "Ms. Martinez," he said carefully, "you are standing in what we designated Contamination Zone 17. This area has killed 3 separate species. The atmospheric toxicity alone—" Emma laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, this is the toxic zone? Yeah, okay, I can smell the sulfur now that you mention it. Honestly thought it was just the station's recycling system acting up." She grinned. "Reminds me of camping at Yellowstone with my family. We'd hike near the geothermal vents and my little brother would always complain about the smell. Good times." "You thought," Zillax's translator struggled with his shock. "The barriers, the molecular containment fields, you walked through them. The pretty light walls." Emma's expression shifted to embarrassment. "Oh man, were those actual barriers? I thought they were decorative. You know, like mood lighting. They didn't stop me or anything, so I figured they were just for ambiance." She paused. "Am I in trouble? Because nobody put up signs or anything." Kaeldra's voice came through the comm, tight with the kind of control that preceded complete psychological collapse. Ambassador, I need to speak with the human directly. Ms. Martinez, your planet, Earth, it's classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Can you explain what that means to you? Emma shrugged. I mean, yeah, Earth's kinda rough. The atmosphere used to be straight-up poison before plants oxygenated it. We've got like 5 major extinction events in our geological record. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, meteor strikes. The planet's pretty actively trying to kill everything on it, but life just adapts, you know? We're stubborn like that. Adapts, Kaeldra repeated flatly. Your species evolved to survive planetary conditions that are actively hostile to life itself. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds dramatic. Emma pulled a small device from her pocket, her personal data pad. Look, I work in the station greenhouse, right? Some of the chemicals I use for pest control are way worse than whatever's in the air here. We've got this fungicide that's basically concentrated death, but you gotta use it or the rot gets everything. I wear gloves for that stuff, though. Safety first. Zilax felt his worldview cracking like compromised hull plating. Your greenhouse chemicals are worse than Class 5 corrosive compounds? I mean, probably. They'll melt through plastic in about 30 seconds. Emma said this like she was discussing weather patterns. But they're great for keeping the hydroponic systems clean. The command center's comm channel exploded with activity. High Council members were reviewing Earth's files in real time, and the horror in their voices crescendoed with each new discovery. Gravity 3.2 times standard, background radiation levels that would require shielding for most species. Predator-to-prey ratios indicate actively hostile ecosystem. Atmospheric oxygen concentration is toxic to 63% of known species. Councilmember Vexthul's voice cut through the chaos. How was humanity cleared for space travel? Their planet should have rendered them extinct millennia ago. Sir, an aide responded weakly, initial assessment classified them as unlikely to survive space travel due to fragile biological systems requiring narrow environmental parameters. The report recommended minimal contact. Emma, oblivious to the existential crisis she was causing across multiple star systems, walked to the edge of the containment zone where the atmospheric pressure dropped to near vacuum. She breathed normally, her cellular structure simply compensated. Kaeldra made a sound that transcended language, pure primal fear. She's operating in vacuum-adjacent conditions. Her lungs should collapse, her blood should boil. She's fine. Little lightheaded, Emma admitted. But honestly, it's about the same as hiking at altitude back home. We've got mountains that go up to like 29,000 feet. Tourist thing, people climb them for fun. Well, some people die, but mostly it's fine. The command center fell silent. For fun? Someone whispered. Zilax's mind made the logical leap that every council member was simultaneously reaching. Ms. Martinez, you're a botanist. That's considered a non-combat profession on Earth, correct? Yeah, I just grow plants and make sure the station's food supply doesn't die. Pretty chill job. What about your military? The question came from High Council Chairman Dirax himself, newly arrived and watching the situation with 4 eyes that reflected pure dread. If a civilian botanist can survive conditions that kill combat species, what can your soldiers endure? Emma's expression turned thoughtful. Oh man, I mean, I've got a cousin in the Marines. Those guys are nuts. They do training exercises in deserts, Arctic conditions, underwater, pretty much anywhere that sucks to be. They run obstacle courses that would probably kill me, and I can apparently breathe poison, so... She trailed off, finally noticing the horrified silence. Why are you all looking at me like that? Emergency session, Dirax commanded, his voice hollow. Reclassify humanity immediately, and someone get me every file we have on Earth's military capabilities. We might have severely miscalculated, Kaeldra said quietly, what Deathworld actually means. The High Council convened an emergency session while Emma sat on the floor of Containment Zone 17, finishing her sandwich and looking increasingly annoyed. "Show me everything," Chairman Dirax demanded. "Every file, every cultural record, every piece of data we have on human recreational activities." The holographic displays flickered to life with footage from Earth's information networks. What the Council saw made their various biological systems seize in synchronized horror. Humans threw themselves out of aircraft for entertainment. They strapped wooden planks to their feet and slid down mountains. They jumped off cliffs attached to elastic cords. They called these things extreme sports and paid money to experience them. "These are punishment rituals, yes?" Vexthul asked desperately. "Criminal sentences?" "No, sir," the cultural analyst replied, voice shaking. "These are considered fun, leisure activities. The humans doing this are smiling." Kaeldra pulled up medical records, cross-referencing them with Emma's personnel file. Her emergency contact, her grandmother, age 73 Earth years. Medical history shows she survived cancer with minimal treatment. "I'm running radiation exposure calculations based on the treatment described." The numbers appeared on screen. Every council member recoiled. "That radiation dosage would sterilize an entire planet," Kaeldra whispered. Her grandmother was exposed to it deliberately, as medicine, and it worked. "Okay, seriously, what is going on?" Emma's voice cut through the calm, patience clearly exhausted. "I've been sitting in here for almost an hour. I just want to finish my lunch and get back to my ferns. They need pH adjustment by 1400 hours, or the tomatoes will get root rot." Zilax approached the containment barrier, what remained of it anyway. "Ms. Martinez, we're trying to understand how to safely extract you from—" "Extract me? I walked in here. I can walk out." Emma stood up, dusting off her uniform. "But actually, now that I'm looking around, this contamination you're all freaked out about, what exactly is it contaminating?" "The exotic matter leakage from the antimatter containment creates unstable particles that—" Yeah, science words, but like, where does it go?" Emma walked over to a monitoring station, examining the readouts with professional interest. "Because if I'm reading this right, you're just venting it into space? That's super wasteful." "Wasteful?" Kaeldra sounded like her sanity was a distant memory. "It's universally lethal material. To you guys, maybe." Emma's eyes lit up with the particular enthusiasm of someone solving a work problem. "But my greenhouse has been struggling with mineral deficiencies. These compounds," she pointed at the chemical analysis, "they're basically super concentrated nutrients. My plants would love this stuff." The silence that followed could have stopped a star from burning. "You want to," Zilax said slowly, "route universally lethal toxic contamination into your food production facility." "Well, when you say it like that, it sounds weird." Emma was already pulling up station schematics on a nearby console. "Look, just reroute the ventilation through a filtration system. I can set one up in like 2 days, and pump it into the hydroponic systems. The plants will process it, convert it to useful compounds, and you'll actually get better crop yields." "Win-win!" She looked at the assembled council members through the camera feeds, genuinely confused by their expressions. "This is literally basic composting. You guys do know about composting, right?" Chairman Dirax spoke quietly. "She just solved a contamination crisis that's plagued this station for 30 years by treating it as fertilizer." "Human problem solving," Kaeldra said, voice hollow. "They don't see dangers. They see resources." Vexthul pulled up military projections. "If their civilians think like this, repurposing existential threats as gardening supplies, what do their strategic thinkers do?" "We don't find out," Dirax said firmly. "Ever." He activated the station-wide comm. "Ms. Martinez, your proposal is approved. Contamination Zone 17 is hereby redesignated as Human Botanical Research Area Alpha. You have full clearance to implement your solution." "Oh, cool! Thanks!" Emma's genuine enthusiasm was somehow more terrifying than anger would have been. I'll start drawing up plans. This is going to be great for the tomatoes. Xylax, Dirax continued, you are hereby reassigned to permanent position of human liaison. Your new job description is preventing humans from accidentally solving problems in ways that give the rest of us existential crises. Xylax looked at Emma, who was now happily taking measurements and muttering about nitrogen cycles. Understood, sir, he said weakly. Council resolution, Dirax announced formally. Humans are reclassified as Category Omega entities. They are weapons of mass destruction who don't know they're weapons. All security protocols are to be rewritten under the assumption that humans can bypass them by not noticing they exist. Our previous understanding of fragile and dangerous were based on our own limitations, not reality. Emma waved cheerfully at the cameras. Hey, since I'm getting a bigger workspace, can someone finally fix the cafeteria hours? I'm starving. The council stared. Somewhere in the background, a junior aide fainted. 3 months after what became known as the Martinez Incident, Station Omega-7 had fundamentally changed. The former Contamination Zone 17, now officially Human Botanical Research Area Alpha, thrived with impossible vitality. Emma's greenhouse produced crops at yields that broke every agricultural record in galactic history. The tomatoes were, by all accounts, exceptional. Xylax stood at the observation window, watching Emma train 2 newly arrived human botanists in what the station now called Zone Management Protocols. The aliens observing from behind reinforced barriers couldn't decide if they were witnessing a miracle or a horror show. So the key thing about working in exotic matter environments, Emma explained cheerfully, gesturing at the shimmering contamination that surrounded them, is just treating it like any other workplace hazard. It smells funky, sure, but you get used to it. Kind of refreshing. Once your sinuses adjust. One of the new humans, Marcus Chen, transferred from a mining colony, nodded enthusiastically. This is way better than the sulfur pits back on Titan. At least this stuff doesn't stick to your clothes. The senior xenobiologist observing from the safety corridor made a sound like a dying star. Station Omega-7 now featured 17 officially designated human zones, areas previously considered uninhabitable, toxic, or dimensionally unstable. Humans had moved into all of them. They'd installed coffee makers. Emma checked her datapad, frowning. Man, I really miss real weather. Station climate control is so sterile. Xylax, who had learned to fear Emma's casual comments, asked carefully, what do you mean by real weather? You know, storms. Back home, we'd get these awesome thunderstorms in summer. Lightning, torrential rain, sometimes hail the size of your fist. Really clears the air. She sighed wistfully. Or those fun tropical storms when I visited my cousin in Florida. The hurricanes are intense. Hurricanes, Xylax repeated, pulling up Earth meteorological data with trembling appendages. You mean Category 5 atmospheric disturbances with wind speeds exceeding 250 kilometers per hour, events that can level infrastructure and cause mass casualties? Well, yeah, if you're not prepared, but they're kind of exciting, you know, gets the blood pumping. Emma scrolled through her datapad. Oh, and tornado season in the Midwest. That's really something. We used to watch them from the basement window when I was a kid. Xylax cross-referenced galactic weather classification systems. What humans called fun storms were rated as extinction-level events by council standards. The gentle breeze that most species considered pleasant weather would barely register on human perception. Your planet's normal weather patterns, he said hollowly, would require emergency evacuation protocols for 92% of galactic species. Huh, that explains why everyone freaks out when the ventilation acts up. The council had passed 17 new pieces of legislation in the past 3 months. Xylax's personal favorite was Resolution 2847HX. Under no circumstances should personnel attempt to contain, restrict, or anger Deathworld species, particularly humans, particularly if said human appears to be in a bad mood. Emma's communicator chimed. She glanced at it and groaned. Oh crap, I've got an overdue library book. Been meaning to return that for weeks. The library is in Section 7, Zilax said reflexively. You'll need to... Emma was already walking toward the exit, which took her directly through what remained of the station's maximum security checkpoint. The molecular barriers detected her approach, flickered half-heartedly, and simply deactivated. The alarms that once would have screamed their warnings had been reprogrammed to ignore human movement entirely. It was more efficient than constantly replacing blown circuits. She paused at the checkpoint, looking back with a grin. You know, Zilax, you guys really need to update your security systems. I'm pretty sure a toddler from Earth could walk through most of this stuff. Zilax checked Earth developmental data. Human toddlers possessed grip strength that exceeded most species' adult capabilities. They routinely survived falls that would shatter alien skeletal structures. They put toxic substances in their mouths as a learning mechanism and usually survived. She wasn't joking. Emma waved cheerfully and headed off toward the library, humming something that sounded like an Earth folk song. She passed 3 more security checkpoints without breaking stride. Behind her, the greenhouse thrived in conditions that should have been impossible, growing food that was somehow both delicious and only mildly terrifying. Zilax watched her disappear around a corner, then activated his personal log. Day 93 of Human Integration Protocol. Station functions have improved by all measurable metrics. Crop yields up 340%. Former hazard zones now productive. 0 security breaches by hostile forces, mostly because our security systems are now optimized to stop actual threats rather than humans, who apparently exist in a different category of physics. Personal note. Ms. Martinez mentioned she has a sister who's a combat medic and might visit next month. I've already filed for stress leave. He paused, then added one final entry. Reminder to self. Never, under any circumstances, meet an angry human. Somewhere in the distance, Emma's cheerful humming echoed through corridors that had once been designed to contain the impossible. They'd never stood a chance.